So good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Today we'll be reading about sovereign state and non-state actors in the perspective of international relations. So this is how you can analyze or understand things from the viewpoint of international relations. And I hope I'm audible. So hello. Yes. So, hi, good morning, good afternoon, everybody. So, today we'll be understanding about what is a sovereign state and what are the non-state actors as such. So, here, if we understand, this is we are talking from the purview of international relations. So, if we are speaking it from the purview of international relations, so if we are speaking it from the purview of international relations, then this tactics gonna change. So first, let us understand what is a sovereign state. So as in first semester, you might have read, or first or second semester, so you might have read about what is the state system and what are the state agents. But in international space, there are both the state agents and the non-state agents. So these, over a period, the non-state actors, it's in the name itself, like other than the state. So other than the state actors have started to exert their influence, have started to show their influence on in international space and on policy, on decision making, on various other things. So this have led to an issue or creation of new other organizations that have come into place. So first, let us understand what is sovereign state, what is sovereignty, and what are state actors and what are non-state actors. How did they exert their influence over a period? This is all we'll be reading in this lecture. So first, uh, let us have this introduction. So state is considered as the dominant form of political organization. So ancient, if we look at the tribal states or before even the formation of nation state system, The states have tried to exert their influence, like we have read it previously. So what happened here was the people with a group of certain same viewpoint or same interest to pursue have come together uh, and formed themselves clan type primitive societies. So these primitive societies have later on started to become or expand their arena, and they have been came to known as the nation state system has evolved. So during this thing, if we look at it is considered as the dominant form of political organization. The state is what? State is a political organization. So now what does this political organization do? This will look after the people inside of the states. Like in Hobbes, the state of nature, people have surrendered their natural freedom to an absolute sovereignty, to an absolute monarch, who is said to have happen this absolute monarch. This absolute monarch will have the absolute authority, so that sovereign authority they can exert any type of influence on the citizens who have signed that contract. So that's how the state has come into the picture, and later on, the state has been defined based on its activities that it has done, like the expansive view, or in protection, in giving protection, or in giving this welfare kind of state, welfare policy state, so, or military state, or realistic state. So all these geographical area, fixed geographical area, and people inside of it surrendering their rights or abiding by the authority that they have instigated or elected. This whole organization is called a state. And states in international system are the primary most actors. So they're the most important actors because let's suppose the two countries are fighting. So if you look at it, like why are they fighting for? How do you recognize that they are fighting? Because why do they want to fight? Why do they want to fight is like they want to protect their territory. So this territory, this organization, whatsoever is called state. So that's why the states try in Machiavellian state, in Cartelian state, the state has to exert or show its power to other nations, to other countries, so that they won't attack you. And states also should expand their boundaries, should they expand their territory so that the other country, other states does not think that you are a weaker state. Got it. So this is how they have been playing a primary role in international space, and the extent of influence the state actors plays is very huge. So international space is decided by the presence of certain states. By presence of certain states, we mean they are powerful states, there are rogue states, there are weaker states, there are neutral states, there are all kinds of states. So, based on their characteristics, based on the decision making power in their internal matters, or based on their exerting presence in international system, will lead to what kind of state they are. Okay, so you please don't get confused with the state that we talk in about it in Indian politics. So Indian politics state is different if we are talking about international system, if we're talking about Western political thought or Indian political thought, this concept or notion of state is different. Here we are talking in the purview of a country, a geographical area, a sovereign geographical land. Okay, so I hope you don't get confused between these two factors. So this is not just limited to states and their activities, but also, they meant to say the extent of influence. States have this enormous amount of influence in international space. So this influence is not just limited to states itself, but also various other factors which are to be considered as an organizations outside of the state or working alongside of the state or organizations which are anti to the state, but they are certain actors which help the countries, which help the states to exert their influence in international space. And also, these are known as non-state actors. It's in the name itself, state actors and non-state actors. So it is easy to remember. And in this chapter, we will be discussing the role of state and their sovereign structure, and also non-state actors' role in international space, and what are the various kinds of non-state actors, and how do these non-state actors play a crucial role in exerting influence in international space. So that's how we are going to read it. What we are going to read it in the coming lecture. So now next what happens is, what is an international system? So suppose it exerts influence, the states or the non-state actors, they said to have exerting influence in international system, right? Now we should understand what is this international system. So coming to what is this international system is, it is a combination of components and patterns of interaction. Let's suppose what is that space is to be known as. Let's suppose you have a friend circle. So how do you define this friend circle? So how do you define this friend circle is by the amount of by the personality that your friend circle has, your social indicators, your economic factors, and depending upon how well you behave in the society. Just like that, international system also should be recognized. So now, how do you recognize this international system? You recognize this international system based on the interactions that it has, or interaction that it creates among one or two states, or the interactions among the various other states, whether leading to conflict resolution or whether leading to the conflict creation, or like war, creation of war and the settlement of peace. So how a countries behave themselves, or how countries be their best person, or be the best version of themselves in international space. So this is what is known as international system. So any collection of independent political entities like tribes, city-states, nations, or empires that interact with considerable frequency and according to regularized processes. So this is how what does international system consist of is like any organization. So any state which is a tribal state, or which is the primitive society which have evolved to be the tribal state, city-state system, or an empire, or a dynasty, with certain characteristics of feature, and how they proceed or project themselves in international space as per the rules and regulation of that international system. So it's like, I hope everybody understands Telugu. Like నీకు నచ్చినట్టు నువ్వు ఉండడం కాదు, నీకు నచ్చినట్టు ఉండడం కాకుండా whatever the regularized processes are there to be followed, if the countries are following that regularized processes, only then they will be considered to be an international system. Okay, so you cannot be a rogue state, you cannot be not acting as per the regulations. You cannot be in that system. So the structure of international system is based on states. Now, this third point, I've already explained it. So what happens here is the international system, that the system that we are talking about, where the countries should act according to the regularized processes, are based on, or are formed by these so-called states. So the states have decided that so and so things that you should be following in order to represent yourself. Just like if you are going to college, you just cannot go to college as you wish, right? There is a dress code, there is a attendance thing, there is a etiquette, there's a manners that you should be following. So just like that, these countries or nation states also should be following all such things. So, and also the fourth point is the international system consists of international organizations or non-state and private actors. So this international system that we have discussed all along does not just consist of the nation state systems or the city states, but these also have the other organizations which operate outside of the state. Okay, so these are said to be known as international organizations or non-state actors or the private actors. So this combination of states, non-state actors, private actors is said to be known as an international system. Then what do these events, what do these international non-state actors lead to is they help states have better relationships, better whether it is for the trade, whether it is for the technology transfer, whether it is for the economic gains, whether it is as a part of what do we call as a part of geopolitical space, these increase interdependence among these state actors. That's how you can understand the increase in interdependence among these actors. This you can have especially seen after the globalization, new international economic order, or the concept of a new global village. This also could be seen previously during 2020, during the pandemic era, where countries have exchanged the vaccines technology and where the countries have come together to help the smaller countries to have the better political policy structures. So this is how it is important these countries uh, intertwine among themselves and they help each other fighting for a similar cause or fighting for a similar enemy, or they really wanted to grow their economy. That also is one of the features. So this is how things go on in international space. So now the actors in international relations. Now, what are the actors? Like, what do you mean by an actor? So, actor is nothing but any entity which plays an identifiable role in international relations. Let's suppose there's some actor which plays a role of what do we say? Peace, conflict resolution mechanism, like basically the United Nations organization. So the conflict resolution mechanism. So now it is identified by a peacekeeping organization, right? So like that, there are many organizations like BRICS, which is SARC, all the APEC. These are all meant for the either trade, either for increasing the South-South cohorts. So all these certain identification that they come up with, all these are known as actors. So now there are state actors and there are non-state actors. State actors are by the state itself, like the democracy, it could be, or anything that the country prevails. And non-state actors are outside of the state. So outside of the purview of the state. Okay, state doesn't have any control on those elements. So the individual or a group of state or an organization that plays a major role on the global stage. So this is how the actors in international space really try to do their work. Now there are two types of actors, state actors and non-state actors. So as per the traditional political thinkers, the state actors are very crucial. So this they give very importance to the role of state. So they do not like any organizations to be diminishing the exerting of power of state. So they, for them, for the traditional thinkers, state are important. So whatever the relationships that a country need to have with the other country, then it should come from only state to state level. So state should be the crucial factor. Okay, state should be the crucial potential factor in extending that arms, extending that relationship. So examples are Great Britain, France, Germany, Holland, Spain, and Portugal. Because previously they said to have largely shaped the relationships through economic and political power. This could be seen during the World War, after the World War. So these countries have said to have changed the map. These countries are said to have changed the route map of in international space. So these because they largely were colonial nations, and they were expanding their presence all over the world. So that's why traditionally they said to have exerted a lot of cultural influence on international relations. Now what happens is, with the Cold War coming into the picture, and with various organizations that are coming into the picture, various international organizations that are coming into the picture, and inter-regional organizations that are coming into the picture, the role of state is said to have diminished. So now what happens is, diminished means the state exists. No, there's no wrong that state doesn't exist, but state exists. But there are certain features of state that have said to have been diminished. Earlier, when there are certain features of state, like only states would have this first-hand influence of power. Now, the non-state actors in the 20th century, like because of trade, commerce issues, because of the environmentalism and the human rights issues, religion, ethnic conflicts. So all these things have said to have raised their influence and diminished the role of state to an extent. So now what happens is, let's talk about environmental pollution. So environmental pollution, the Paris Accord, the countries have come up with the Paris Accord. Earlier, if any policy decision thing, the state would be exerting that true power. So now these organizations have pushed they exerted influence on the state to follow certain rules and regulations in order to control whatever the issue that they are working on. So that's how the role of state has decreased to an extent. And also the manipulate multilateral decisions. So these events, they manipulate multilateral decisions means, earlier, if you want to change anything, then you have to be approaching the state itself. Nowadays, the various organizations, pressure groups, lobbyist groups, NGOs, INGOs, intergovernmental organizations, all these have said to have exerted influence on policy making, politics in that arena, and the type of uh, uh, schemes that the governments will come up with. So they kind of try to exert influence on the very existence of state structure. Now let us understand what is a sovereign state. Sovereign state is, it distinguishes state from other associations in the society. So the sovereign state is nothing but it is the sole authority. It is an absolute authority. But initially the role has been diminished. So the absoluteness have been diminished, and it had started to act along the other elements inside of the state also. So what are these other elements? One is state, other is non-state. So this is how you can remember. Then state makes its laws and decisions and issues commands which are binding on all the citizens. Now another difference that you can find out. Now what happens here? State makes laws. Now in India, it's a state that make laws, right? State, I mean, again, I don't like to say the what do we say? Uh, so it's like I don't want to every time keep telling that in international space, state doesn't mean the states like Telangana and Andhra Pradesh, but like the nation state in terms of geographical structure, right? I hope you understand. So the now what happens is, so the state makes, see, the state will only make laws, right? If there's a democratically elected state, or if it isn't. autocratic state. It's the state itself that makes the laws, that makes the decision making, that makes the policies, that will look after the citizens. So citizens are bound to follow those state's orders, right? So same doesn't go for the non-state actors. So citizens are not bound to follow these non-state actors elements. If they are to be coming from the state, then they can be followed. Now, state makes its laws and decisions and issue commands which are binding on all citizens. You cannot deny saying that you're a state actor. I don't obey the rules and regulation of states. I like to obey the rules and regulations of some international organizations. By then, you could be doing something that is against the sentiments of the state. And society is politically organized. So now the political organizations also, which that's why it is very easy to exert the influence of non-state actors within the purview of the state. So you can see the interest groups, pressure groups, all these organizations exerting their influence on country in making the policies. So that's why you cannot find a strict division. This is what they meant to say. There is no strict demarcation of division. Okay. Then 1450 to 1650, evolution of territorial state have come into the picture. Now, what happens is here the people, here the states have been said to have recognized, and the territory, the expansion of territory and the fixed geographical area that this they call themselves as the state have started to come into the picture, and these have been given very crucial importance. That's why these are called the territorial state. Now, nation state system is a product of Treaty of Westphalia, 1648. This is like who is the Prime Minister of India means you have to remember it's Modi, right? Same like that. When did the nation state system in international space have started to come into the picture is through Treaty of Westphalia 1648. You have to remember this Treaty of Westphalia 1648 have started the nation state system by ending a 30 years war which had happened in 1618 and 1648, again the 30 years war. These 2 points are very important. Even if you are preparing for any competitive exam or if you are trying to write it in an answer. So this is how you can remember, or being a discipline of internet political science, you should remember this. There's no shortcut on this. And no other actor is above that of the state. That's what. Even though the non-state actors exert pressure on the state, but these non-state actors are not important. These non-state actors are not something that are above the state. They are in the purview of the state itself. So that's what you should also remember. Then no other actor is above the state. Uh, Now, they will ask you what is a state. So, what is a state means any geographical area with a defined territory, definite population, a government, and sovereignty. Sovereignty means no outside exerting of influence. So, it's you are an absolute power inside of your territory. You are not run by an authority that is outside of your territory. So earlier, before the independence, we were not a sovereign state. So we have been ruled by the British colonial rule. So because we do not have the authority to make any laws, we do not have our elected representatives who are running the government. So that is also very important. And development and changes in state it exercises sovereignty exclusively over its territory and its people. So people are bound to follow certain rules and regulations that have been given by the state. Then development and changes in state increases in number. So the development and changes that have been happening inside of the state have led to increase in number of these non-state actors also who tried to exert influence. So this is also very important, like this tells you like how these things have come into the picture. Now, what is a sovereign state? The sovereign state is nothing but in a sovereign state, the primary actors, people living in a territory, pay obedience to the state authority. State provides defense against external war and internal conflicts. State looks after the welfare and security of the population and the of the population. Now, let us understand what is a sovereign state. So, sovereign state is nothing but if we look at the Hobbes' sovereign state of law of state of nature. So, in that, the people have surrendered their certain rights and they have elected an authority as an absolute authority who would look after the people. Okay, where the people in state of law of nature are cruel and brutish. Now that state structure have come into the picture, now that rules and regulations have come into the picture, the citizens are bound to obey those rules and regulations. So they have to pay their obedience. They should be obedient to the geographical territory that they are in because state is ulta providing them with security. Okay, state is also providing them with some welfare needs. Then state is also providing them with the protection. So this is how the states should be considered. And state also defends against external war or internal conflict. Let's suppose in India, if there's a war happens, it is the authority of the state of the India to protect its citizens. So that's why it will go to war, right? So that's why the main function of state is to protect people inside of its territory. So be it from an external aggression or be it from internal aggression. Okay, external aggression means war from an outside country or be it from uh, the internal conflicts or internal internal demands or internal violence that erupts due to their demands. So these are all against these are all citizens should be protected by the state. And state also looks after the welfare and society of their population. This you can see in terms of welfare state system. See, let's suppose Mahalakshmi scheme is there. So Mahalakshmi scheme, the state is giving welfare benefits to the women of this state, right? So, like that, let's up the other activities or midday meal scheme also now state is doing what? It is asking the parents of these people to send them to school where the students would be fed food. So the because instead of sending them to school, the parents have been sending their kids for the daily laborer work. So because they have to earn, now that the schools have been providing them with midday meals and the food and education, now it has become easy because when it was surveyed, the parents were asked that, like, why are you sending them to work rather than letting them study? The main thing was they were unable to afford food for them. So it was better them to send to the work than to schools. But once the government has come up with this midday meal scheme, now the parents were enthusiastic to send enough their kids to school because they said initially the sole agenda is to feed them a meal. Now that schools have been government has been doing it and also providing them education on the sidewise. So it is the rule and it is the uh, it is the duty of the states to provide welfare and security to their population. But with globalization, liberalization, privatization that have come into the picture, the role or presence of state have said to have diminished. Now that the borders are not closed or not limited, the states have really become borderless, and there's a transfer or exchange of enormous amount of information. The globalization have started to exert its presence and the state's dominance have started to decrease. So with decrease in dominance of states, the non-state actors' influence have started to increase. So this is how the globalization has really caused a crisis to the sovereign status of the states because the various other non-state elements have said to have exerting the influence on them. Then, what are the non-state actors? So, non-state actors are nothing but associations of individuals or group. that are not established by the agreements among the states. So these are some things outside of the states, like political societies, which are outside of the state. They don't work under the purview of the states. States do not empower them with any functions. States do not empower them with any powers. These are some organizations which are formed. So rather, some set of people, individuals, or a group would be benefited by those things. So these are created by civil societies or and individuals, and non-sovereign entities. They come with some other scope, and their purpose is different. Examples: these could be seen in United Nations organizations, Arab League, Amnesty International, and Worldwide Fund. So Amnesty International is something. It's an NGO that is working for human rights protection. So these things could be seen in the name of non-state actors. So, and also some other are African Union, European Union, ASEAN, and SAARC. So these are all the examples of non-state actors which exert pressure either on the state, on the elements of the state, on the public, either through political needs, for social needs, or for the economic needs. And multinational organizations such as Microsoft, IBM, or Google examples. So multinational organizations also have started to exert their pressure on states by influencing the policies, industrial laws, and business laws. So now the cross-national boundaries such as international media, criminal organization, ethnic groups, local governments, and individuals have also started to become the non-state actors because they are not something that are recognized by the state, or sorry, that something that are formed in the purview of the state, or something that are formed by the state. So these are all examples. I hope everybody will remember the examples because it will be good if you remember the examples. That gives weightage to the answers. Now, non-state actors are characterized as international or intergovernmental organizations, inter-non-governmental organizations, or multinational corporations. Uh, you should remember these three categories of non-state actors. These are very important if as an MCQ wise also. If there's a question, long answer comes also, you can write nicely. Then Joseph Frankl, he categorized these non-state actors into interstate governmental organizations, interstate non-governmental actors, intranational actors. So this is a, division that has been given by the Frankl, but let us categorize the non-state actors and what are their functions and what all could be called as those organizations. So first one, let us talk about intergovernmental organizations. So intergovernmental organizations, it's the name itself. It's between two or more governments. So it's between two or more states. So the agreement has been formed by two or more states. So why do they form an agreement? In order to pursue their common interest, uh, in order to protect their common interest, or in order to pursue, or in order to achieve a similar goal that these two or more countries have. And this can be seen in UNO, WHO, and WTO. What is UNO? United Nations Organizations, World Health Organization, World Trade Organizations. So UN also, right? Like after the World War II, this has come into the picture, and the peacekeeping organizations, which has really tried to exert influence on the states, right? So around 2020, so around 72,500 IGOs were registered from 300 countries. So all these IGOs have tried to exert the influence on certain policy making, decision making ideas, and welfare programs. Now, based on that, there are global and there are regional IGOs. So, what are the global IGOs? Which it will have global membership. It has a broad purpose. So, this can be seen in United Nations organizations and World Trade Organizations. So, now the second one is global membership and the narrow purpose. So, membership is overall available overall the world, but their purpose is very narrow, limited to one or two issues. So this can be seen in Universal Postal Union, International Monetary Fund. Then limited membership, but the broad purpose. Like not everybody is allowed to get into that, but it is serving a many interests. It is serving many ideas. So this can be seen in African Union and Commonwealth of Nations. Now the fourth one is limited membership and narrow purpose. So this can be seen in OPEC, Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries. This whole agenda is all the petroleum reserve, high reserve countries which are exporting the petrol to the other countries have formed this group and come together because to talk about a single unified structure in exporting the petrol. Now, the basis on the political, social, and economic can be seen here. So, NATO, North Atlantic Treaty Organizations. So, if you're somebody following the news, then you might have come across this NATO during the Ukraine and Russia war. So, and Organization of American States, Organization of African Unity, South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation, SAARC, ASEAN, Arab League, OPEC, WHO, IMF, ILO, and World Bank. These are all the intergovernmental organizations which have said to have exerted their influence in political space, in social space, and in economic space. And now these organizations, they don't just exist as such. So if they have existed as such, we would have never read about them. But they try to exert their influence on the foreign policy, on the policy demands of a particular state. Because first thing, as these are formed between two or more countries, so these uh, policy could have a positive effect on this group, or it could have a negative effect on the group which is outside of it. So that's why they said to have exerted a lot of impact in foreign policy and relations. Now, next one is interstate non-governmental organizations. So these are NGOs. These are what? These are private, self-governing, voluntary, non-profit organizations. They are based in a particular country, not connected with any national government. Here, on a head to head level, won't happen. On a head to head level, interactions won't happen because these are something which are said to have been private in number, which are said to have exerting not in any role in policy making. So these are all interstate non-governmental organizations. So, who are these? International Confederation of Free Trade Unions, International Chamber of Commerce. So, these two are state non-governmental organizations. So, what happens is they are transnational and implement projects, provide services, and defend specific causes. INGOs are interact with social institutions also, such as social institutions and multinational corporations, local governments, and states to achieve their goals. So they are not state actors. So and if they are not state actors, they cannot exert any influence on the public, right? So only states shall have this exerting power of influence on the citizens. So now what happens is, in order to show their presence, in order to fulfill their needs or certain policies, they will also work along the states in order to deliver certain goals. So this could be seen in environment, human rights, disaster management, child labor, women rights, public health, migration, displacement, and socioeconomic justice. So this can be seen in Greenpeace, Amnesty International, and Red Cross. Greenpeace is for the environmental protection. Amnesty is human rights violation, and Red Cross is the health sector related. And there are two types of INGOs, like there are religious and there are economic. So religious, they could be seen. Example here I've given: Roman Catholic Church, Pope maintains diplomatic relationships with the other states in this side of the world, and also Imam of large and influential mosques. They also have exert their influence on other regional religious organizations that have been established in other countries. Now, intranational actors. So intranational actors are nothing but the actors which gain support from external sources. So what are these external sources? Like, why do they get support from external sources? in supposed to achieve any movement in order to achieve protection, in order to have this funding for any movement which have been not recognized by the state actors. So this could be seen in political movements, nation liberation movements, ethnic, racial, religious, ideological movements. All these things you can see intranational actors and own national groups or from governments hostile to their own government. So these international actors are basically they are fighting for a cause which is against that of a policy or anything that have been given by the government itself, by the state itself. So they kind of anti. So they kind of anti function to certain events to the state. So, example, Zionist lobby, a group which aims to make foreign policy of America more favorable. So the American foreign policy is kind of favorable to Israel. So why Israel means the Zionist lobby also been exerting the pressure on America by putting its foreign policy which aims to improvise the Israeli state. Now MNCs are also designed to profit, in which ownership, management, and production and sales extend over several or more nations. So MNCs, suppose they are the MNCs, they are from outside state, so inside of the state, they try to exert influence. How? By creating jobs, by providing opportunities, by paying taxes to the region that they are in, and also by exerting their influence in policy making through lobbyist groups. So like that, these MNCs also exert their pressure. And based in emerging markets, so these intranational governmental organizations, international actors are basically are there in countries which are developing. Okay. So what are these developing countries or emerging markets? China, India, Russia, Brazil, Mexico, and Turkey. So in these nations that they are found to be in, and MNC's main agenda is profit maximization. So they are not there uh, for some social welfare activity, but rather they are there to earn money, rather they are there to build themselves. So MNCs can affect developing countries' economic structure because they try to make policies which are favorable to them. So this policies by favoring the MNCs could also disrupt the policies of the actual state. Then MNCs are major factors in increasing globalization of the world economy. So these MNCs, as they are widespread, so they try to increase this interconnectedness among the states. So in a way, this increase in interconnectedness will lead to a greater globalization, like a concept of global village that will come into the picture. Excuse me. Now, some of the theories are for the MNCs doing the great work, and some theorists say that these MNCs are doing the devil's work. So the great work is they are the powerful agents in internationalization of human society because these MNCs can exert really important pressure on a state if for making the policies citizen centric special. But the anti people who say the MNCs are like evil, they directly they say that these MNCs are kind of indirectly colonizing the poor and less developed countries by providing the certain infrastructure or making them fall into these debt traps or saying that for we are here for developing or boosting your economy. So the government should lease us the land at a very cheaper rate because we are providing the employment and we are generating the tax, we are generating the income, so and so. So this is how. So overall, at the end of the day, these MNCs are there for profit maximization. So they are there to earn. It depends on how they are earning. Okay. Now, other non-state actors. So, other non-state actors are nothing but they play a very prominent and active role. They are like these terrorist organizations. So, terrorist organizations, they are political and religious in nature. can be separatist movements that have been going on. There can be violent terrorist activities that they are going on. There can be left-wing organizations or like anti-state elements that will be going on. And all these features will compel any state which depend on these intranational organizations try to make policies which would be favorable to them. So this is how you can ask this question like why do they exert force? Like if they are non-state actors, then why can't states really throw them off? Because they are so intertwined with the day-to-day activities of the state that you cannot simply eliminate them. Okay, there could be a revolt in the society because these are very good at mobilizing people and they are very resourceful in comparison to the state. So this is the non-state actors. Then we'll understand about the activities of non-state actors, like why non-state actors and their role in the state, the diminishing role of state. So they said international agenda as major factor in national economic decision-making processes. So other than the state, the non-state actors also play a very crucial role in setting international agendas. Like why do you shape any policy? Why do you shape any uh, how do you shape any new scheme? So these must be coming from these groups. Right. So this is how they work. Example, OPEC started exerting its influence in international politics when it decided to stop the supply of oil. This is an example of how these organizations set their agenda, how they make other nations to abide by it. Okay. Next one is they serve as instruments of government's foreign policy. So international organizations rely on non-state actors, particularly INGOs, and make them implementing partners in national context. So these organizations, these inter INGOs, so INGOs, what happens is uh, they kind of exert their influence on the state to make a foreign policy, which could bring two or three states together, or where their own agenda would be fulfilled. Now, lobbyism activities. So, non-state actors lobby the national governments and international organizations to make favorable decisions to their cause. So, these lobbyist groups you can see everywhere. So, they exert their influence on government in making a policy. So, industrial policy, which could be favorable to them. So that's how they exert pressure. Now, next one example is USA tried to retard the development of French nuclear capability by simply forbidding an MNC, which is in IBM France, to sell certain types of computers to the French government. So this is how the other nations, or be it your enemy nations, be it the powerful nations, they exert their presence or they exert force on the nations through MNCs like this. Then they promote economic interdependence. So MNCs play a very crucial, important role in international relations because of the financial resources they control and they operate very intertwined. Then next to this can be seen in International Monetary Fund, World Bank, which are very effective in giving money to these newly decolonized nations and doing certain structural changes to them and financing the debt issues between the rich and the poor countries. Now we can also see the attitudinal changes over a period in the 21st century. These actors have tried to exert a lot of influence. So there has been a drastic shift in uh, uh, the state actors and the non-state actors. So it doesn't mean that states have in international forum and actively participate in many of the multilateral operations. And MNCs can affect popular attitudes in less developed societies. They shape activities of the civil societies. So, see, now you have to conclude uh, based on this thing is like the it doesn't mean that the role of state have diminished. Okay, it doesn't mean that state have stopped functioning. State still exists. State still exist, but the way the states operate have the way the states operate have kind of decreased its diminished role because of these non-state actors exerting their influence. Like state been getting influenced, state actors been getting influenced by these non-state actors. So all the decisions that the state takes may not be free from the purview of this non-state actors. So that is what you should understand. So this is today's lecture is state and non-state actors. And if coming to, I can say like, yeah. So if coming to the questions, so this would have questions related to what they can ask you a question based on what are the non-state actors, what is the sovereign state, explain its diminishing role in the purview of globalization. That could be a question. Then they might ask you to write about multinational corporations, MNCs, and also they might ask you write the three types of non-state actors. Then you might have to explain all the three with certain examples. So then also you have to conclude an answer with, although there's been an increasing role of non-state actors, but the role of state has not diminished anywhere. So you can conclude like that. So that's how the things uh, can go. And any questions? So any questions? So we'll go through it once again. Introduction, then what is an international system you can explain. Then you can go in what are the actors, like the state actors and non-state actors. If there's a long question comes, explain everything. Then what is a sovereign state, how this role has been diminished over a period. What are the views of traditional theorists? What are the views of modern day theorists on the purview of sovereign states? Now, what are the non-state actors? How many kinds are there? And what is the division that has been given by the Frankel? And examples of this what do we call it? Examples of this non-state actors based on the global and regional presence. Like this four numbers, you can do it. Like they are global, regional. This table is also very important. Then classification based on the political and national. So the basis. Then what are the types? Then INGOs. Then examples. Then international activities examples. Then what are MNCs? MNCs is also very important. Please do learn. Then other non-state actors, then diminishing role, then how these non-state actors have been exerting their influence, like the non-state actors like setting agenda, then serve as an instrument of foreign policy, then lobbyist activities, then this one promote economic interdependence. So all these things that you can read about. Then how this attitudinal change have been going on. These are examples. So this is how you can read or approach an answer. If you're reading it well and good, I hope you'll follow my orders and come to the next lecture by revising the things. So see you all in next lecture.